everybody, Foley here. Welcome to the weekly news recap for the 2nd to the 8th of June 2025. So this week was the Summer Game Fest. There were quite a lot of showcases. We are not going to get through all of them because there's like 15, I think, or something like that. So I'm going to focus on the main three, Sony's State of Play, Xbox's Showcase, and the Summer Game Fest itself. And then next week we will look at the other kind of smaller showcases when I've actually had a chance to actually look at them myself. So we're going to start with Sony's State of Play. It's actually pretty good, I thought. There's a lot of interesting games shown off. So first up we had Lumines Arise, or Lumines, or however you want to pronounce it. This is going to be a kind of Lumines revival game. Lumines, if you're not familiar, was a PSP, and I think it had a PS Vita entry as well. But it's kind of a puzzle game. It's not 100% unlike Tetris, and it is actually Lumines Arise is going to be developed by the guys who made Tetris Effect. So they're going for like a similar approach to take Tetris, and make it a kind of musical spectacle thing. And kind of Lumines was already a musical thing, but kind of like give it all of the immersive effects that Tetris Effect had. And it is going to be a PSVR thing as well. There will be a PS5 version or a flat version, so it is heading to both of those in autumn of this year. And Pragmata, out of nowhere, thought it was dead. This was meant to come out in 2022. No, was it meant to come out in 2021? And then it was delayed to 2022, and then it was delayed to 2023, and then for a long time nothing happened, and now it's re-emerged with actual gameplay. Still technically, I suppose, delayed because it's going to be 2026 at this point. I am going to skip ahead a little bit in the trailer till we get to the actual gameplay. It looks like, kind of at the beginning I was thinking, this feels like Vanquish, but it's not quite as fast-paced as Vanquish. I think I'm actually managing to skip over all of the gameplay, which is impressive. It's an over-the-shoulder sci-fi space shooter type thing, where you have, gun combat and so on. But the girl character is technically a robot AI or something, and she does have hacking abilities, so I would imagine there's some additional like secondary weaponry, secondary attacks that she can perform at the same time. We don't really know the storyline. I'm not sure if it's probably changed. I imagine the gameplay itself has probably changed over time. The manufacturing aspect, like, he doesn't have the big manufacturing backpack anymore. So it's possible they've moved away from that idea. In the earlier trailers, he did have a sort of like almost like a 3D printer on his back kind of thing. And that doesn't appear to be there anymore. It's possible that's maybe later on, or maybe they decided to go with a different gameplay mechanic or something. Anyway, Pragmata, next year, some point. Romeo's Dead Man. This actually game looked really, really good. And as soon as I saw it, I was like... Actually, as soon as I saw it, I thought Killer is Dead too. But no, it's not that. It's Romeo's Dead Man. It is by Suda51, Grasshopper manufacturer. I knew that almost immediately, to be honest. And man, Killer is Dead is such a good hack and slash. It's jank. It's very jank, in fact. But I still really like it. It's just so stylish, and it does look like they're going to be doing a little bit more of the same here with Romeo's a Dead Man. I'm going to skip ahead again to actual gameplay. So it is a third-person hack and slash with some gunplay. Killer is Dead didn't have any gunplay in it at all, I think. I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've played it. I don't think it had any guns. It was primarily a hack and slash game. Romeo's a Dead Man seems to be kind of both melee combat, and ranged combat. But it is going to be a Grasshopper manufacturer Suda51 thing, so it's going to be fucking weird. I'm absolutely here for. I can't remember the last Suda game I played. It's been a while. Was it? It might actually be Killer is Dead, to be honest. Right, anyway, that's Romeo's a Dead Man next year at some point. Silent Hill has a release date, 25th of September. I think it showed off a little bit more of the environment, a little bit more of the area. There's continuing questions on why this is called Silent Hill when it quite clearly doesn't take place in Silent Hill, but I think they addressed this at like one of the Konami things, but I guess not everybody watched it. They're kind of going with the idea of the Silent Hill phenomenon, as opposed to it being like located entirely within just this one place in Middle America or whatever. It can kind of happen anywhere. Silent Hill was just the place it's known for, I suppose, but it can happen in any location. Whether it will have any, is this more of a spiritual thing, or is it actually associated with the cult in Silent Hill and so on? We don't know. We haven't seen enough. Potentially we'll find out more when the game comes out itself. So 25th of September for that. Bloodstained, again, I was also kind of surprised I saw this, but yeah, this doesn't really have a release date. It's just in the future at some point. So Bloodstained Ritual of the Night was a very early Kickstarter game that I did back. It was made by Koji Igarashi, who's probably best known for Symphony of the Night, Castlevania, and Bloodstained was very much that game again. Very, very good. I really liked it. And then it did have a couple of different kind of spin-offs. It had Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. It was meant to be a kind of... It was a stretch goal as part of the Kickstarter, and it was a real throwback to kind of like the very early Castlevania games, so not the Metroidvania types, the kind of level-based ones. And then there was a Curse of the Moon 2, because Curse of the Moon did pretty well. And then Bloodstained has had a lot of ports, a lot of different features have been added, new characters have been added, new modes, and so on. But this is a full-on sequel. And at the beginning, before it was revealed that it was Bloodstained, and before I saw the character in-game stuff, I was thinking it's Castlevania. But I mean, you're not exactly far off. Bloodstained is very much a Castlevania game. What is a little bit different this time around is it does appear to be duo protagonists. Now, whether there's a co-op element, it does feel like that would be a no-brainer that there'd be a co-op element. Or whether you swap between them, or whether the two characters are on screen all the time. Again, we don't know. But it's quite a ways off, as far as I don't think it even gave a release date. Anyway, it's Bloodstained. It's not Bloodborne. Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement. Yeah, there's no date, no window, nothing. It's on its way at some point. Digimon Storytime Stranger continues to be weird, and I do like how it's pointed out here, Kotaku. It's wild how much better Digimon games look than the Pokemon games. It actually looks really good. I know nothing about fucking Digimon, so I'm probably not going to play it, but it does look pretty impressive. 3rd of October for that one. Long rumored Final Fantasy Tactics remake was revealed by Square Enix. It's a little disappointing, to be honest, as a remake, because it does look like they went with the machine learning upscaling stuff, so all of the pixel art just looks really smooth and kind of shit, to be perfectly honest. There have been some stills that I've now seen on social media where they're showing like kind of the portrait art and how the whatever algorithm they're using to smooth things out and upscale it has just like deleted eyes and like turned mouths into ovals and stuff like that. It's all stuff that we've seen before in these kind of upscaled things, and it's kind of disappointing. Now, there is a classic mode available in the Ivalice Chronicles. What's kind of curious about it is, so there's going to be, okay, we see it here, like the enhanced mode and the classic mode. So the classic mode is just the original game. They haven't touched it. It's the War of the Lions version, which is a slightly better translation. And then the enhanced version will have the horrible smoothed pixel art. Why did you do that? But it also has additional story things, some adjustments to the story, and like full voice full voiceover, and much more they haven't gone into. I'm kind of hoping you can mix and match, and it isn't just all or nothing in the enhanced version. Like, I would like to get the voice dialogue, I would like to get whatever story additions and so on have been put to it, but I just don't want the updone, the upscaled art, because it looks awful. I think it looks really bad, to be honest. I don't know why they didn't go with the HD 2D thing. Why didn't they get Team Asano to look at it? Like, that's a no-brainer. Look at Triangle Strategy. That was it. It was there. It's done already. They had a slam dunk waiting for them there, and they went with like the cheap version, basically. And like, we have heard Square Enix are like tightening their belts, but this was not the game to do it with. Anyway, 30th of September, I think that is. Stupid American dates, it's throwing me off. Anyway, we had a bit of a kind of quick blast of some games and their release date. So Baby Steps is September as well, I think. I'm just gonna like skip straight to the release date because I don't remember what it is. Yeah, 8th of September for Baby Steps. So that's the game from the developers of Ape Out and Get Over It, kind of teaming up to make the Baby Steps, which is effectively 3D QWOP. And I think QWOP is probably old enough now that maybe new players don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about with QWOP. QWOP was an old Flash game which you played on the browser, and you were meant to be like an Olympic long jumper. And you controlled the characters, you controlled their knees and their ankles, effectively, with Q, W, O, and P on your keyboard. And you had to try to get them to run and then jump, and it was extremely bad. Or not extremely, it's good in that because they were definitely intending to make a comedy game. Extremely difficult, I suppose, is what I would more go with. Anyway, Baby Steps is effectively that. Hirogami is kind of like an old school action platformer, Banjo-Kazooie type thing. I don't think it's a collectathon. Maybe Ratchet & Clank is a bit closer. Jak and Daxter, that kind of era of platformers. You are an origami guy who can transform into other origami animals, and those animals have different powers and so on. You have the ape, you've a armadillo, I think. There's a frog that can obviously jump really far and so on. Paper crane, etc. July, I think, was the release date. Nope. 3rd of September, so like the week ahead of Baby Steps. Cairn, October. No, sorry, not October. November. Cairn is the mountain climbing game that isn't Jusant. Though it is also by a French developer. It's kind of weird. We have 2 French developers who've done climbing games now, which is a weird one. Anyway, Cairn has a demo available. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I am looking forward to giving it a shot because I kind of like the vibe. 5th of November for that one. And then the last one, Ninja Gaiden, 21st of July, Ninja Gaiden Bloodbound, which is the... No, not Bloodbound, Ragebound. Yeah, which is the kind of throwback 2D version. 2 different characters, probably rock hard, like the original Ninja Gaiden games. Even the 3D Ninja Gaiden games are also really fucking hard, but the side-scrolling ones were... Again, you know, the difficulty didn't come out of nowhere. They were, and always were, difficult games. It is kind of nuts we're getting so many ninja games. Either this year or potentially early next year. Like, we have Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Shinobi, Art of Vengeance, the other Ninja Gaiden game, I suppose. I think there's one other ninja game. We're just missing Strider, really, from Capcom. But Capcom have their hands full. They've got a lot of games going on right now. The people over at Digital Eclipse, who've made a lot of the kind of collection games. I think they've done the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, had a lot of those arcade ports. So they're going to do effectively the same thing for Mortal Kombat. So they're going to collect a bunch of the games, the handheld games, consoles, and the arcade ports, and kind of just smush them all together. There'll be multiplayer, rollback netcode. I don't know what that means, but I hear it's a good thing. and playing documentary stuff, which is actually what I'm more interested in, to be honest. But yeah, that'll be cool whenever it comes out. Sony's making a fight stick. That's basically all we know. They're making their own fight stick, and they've never made a fight stick before, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out for them. For now, it is called Project Defiant. I don't think it will keep that name. It'll probably just be called PlayStation Fight Stick. The accessibility controller, which is called the accessibility controller, was called Project Leonardo at the beginning. So don't expect it to have like a good name or a cool name or anything. I don't want to watch the MGS trailer, even though I've played the game and it's not exactly any spoilers. I still don't want to look at it, but we'll just talk about what it showed off. So the Ape Escape mode, it's kind of a crossover at Ape Escape and MGS, where there would be apes on the loose in the jungle, and Snake would have to track them down and capture them and so on. So that's coming back. It's going to be in the remake, as well as the MG Online possibly is also making a return. We got a very, very brief, what looked like a multiplayer mode. So that could be Metal Gear Online. Should be interesting, because again, I don't think anyone was really expecting them to add Ape Escape, the Ape Escape mode, because I don't know, licensing issues potentially. Although they'd only have to talk to Sony. I don't imagine Sony would have an issue with it. Who knows? Modern Sony are weird. The multiplayer, I could have seen them, axing in the interest of keeping price down and so on. But no, it looks like they're very much going the full remake with it, so that's pretty cool. Neo 3, excellent. Didn't think they would make a Neo 3, to be honest. I thought they were going to move into the Chinese one. What was it called? Maybe this is why they made Neo 3, because I can't remember what that one is called. Wolong? Yeah, Wolong. Fallen Dynasty, something like that. Anyway, Neo 3, it looks like it's going to be more of an open map game, as opposed to Neo 1 and 2 were more of a level-based thing. We'll skip ahead to a little bit of combat. Your protagonist this time around looks like they can swap between builds. So the developers are saying that you're swapping between a samurai build and a ninja build. It's not clear if that is kind of locked into the game, in that one of them will be more agile and the other one is more like melee combat oriented or something like that. Because there is a ninja build already in Neo 1 and 2, or you could make one. Like, the vast majority of the game was like samurai stuff, but you could make a ninja if you wanted to. And in some cases, it's a very, very good build to have if you like spec it out right. So this kind of swapping, it's not clear if you're locked into samurai and ninja, or can it be ninja and a different kind of ninja, or whatever. I don't know. To be honest, I'm trying to think about what else would you swap between. And it's like, I can't actually think of what else it would be. There are like a magic kind of user type thing, but I don't think anyone ever made a build with it. Anyway, there is a demo available right now. The game itself is slated for 2026. The demos for Neo tend to be time limited, and this one I think is as well. It's possible you've already missed your window to play it, but you can check it out yourselves over on PS5. Thief, being resurrected from the dead in some ways, is getting a VR game. Thief, Legacy of Shadow. You are not playing as Garrett. You appear to be playing as a new protagonist, but I think Garrett is kind of a mentor situation here. I do like that your hands are, and this is kind of something that I liked the Thief reboot kind of did. It's kind of a first-person game where you see your hands a lot more than you ordinarily would. You reach out to like pick up treasures and stuff like that, or you snuff out candles and that kind of thing. Where in a lot of games you would just like look at the candle and it would go out. You wouldn't actually see your hands do anything. And I did really like that. There's a lot of things I didn't like in Thief 4. That was one thing I did. This is who I assume Garrett has been reduced to, which is effectively a an eyeball thing. Anyway, we don't know if that's going to get a flat version or if it's just VR only for now, but 2025 at some point. Tides of Tomorrow is a kind of interesting asynchronous thing. So it is technically, I think, a single player game, but the story kind of pulls from other players' decisions, and other players' decisions can affect what happens in your story. So if, like, a friend of yours has played ahead in the game and they made one decision that got everybody pissed off at them in that village or whatever, they'll be pissed off at you when you get there, kind of thing. Or maybe he was nice and everyone's friendly with you, who knows. We'll see how well that works out. I can imagine there'll be a lot of griefing. Anyway, February of next year for that one. Astrobot is getting more levels, so 5 new levels will be at the end of June, or the end of July, no, end of June. Sea of Remnants I thought was Sea of Thieves. When I looked at it originally, I thought, is this more Sea of Thieves things, and why isn't this on the Xbox showcase? What have you? Anyway, no, it's not. It's its own thing. It's definitely not Sea of Thieves. Sea of Remnants has kind of a puppet look to it. I'm not sure if you actually are playing a puppet or this is just the art style they've decided to go with, and you are actually a human. It is clearly a kind of comedy thing. I think it's an MMO, but I'm not 100% on that. Also not entirely sure what the story is or anything like that. It is clearly like a pirate fantasy thing. I skipped over the crab that had a bunch of treasure on its back. Hang on, see if I can find him again. Or not a crab, it's like a mantis shrimp, I think. Anyway, he's got a lot of treasure on his back, and there's like a turn-based attack, maybe, thing? I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, I think it might have a gacha element to it as well. There's a lot that I don't know about Sea of Remnants. Anyway, 2026 for that one. Sword of the Sea is the latest thing from Journey, Abzu, The Pathless, those kind of games. So expect a sort of meditative, spiritual moment kind of game going on here. On Sword of the Sea, they're trying to like mimic like surfing and skateboarding, snowboarding, that kind of thing. Whether you actually use the sword as an actual sword at any moment, I'm not sure. There was a little bit of it there, but nothing has shown like combat or anything like that, and that wouldn't really be in keeping. I suppose the Pathless did. Like the Pathless had like boss fights and shit. But Journey and Absu didn't, so not sure what they're going for. It certainly looks cool. It looks a lot. I see a lot of Journey in it. I'm not seeing a lot of the Pathless in it. Like the undulating sand dunes are certainly very Journey reminiscent. But this kind of behind the back speed along is very the Pathless. Oh, man, the Pathless had really good movement, like really, really good movement. The game is really good, actually. I wasn't thinking about it. Anyway, Sword of the Sea. Did it get a release date? The trailer's literally called the release date, so I guess so. Launching directly into PlayStation Plus 19th of August. A bunch of games being added to the PlayStation Plus Classic catalog. So the original Deus Ex, the PS2 version, which is not a great version. Twisted Metal 3 and 4, which I think were PS2 games. And then Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 somehow were not already on the catalog, but they'll be added later on in the summer. The James Bond game was shown off briefly. Don't know why they don't have a trailer embedded for it. Yeah. Decided to put it in its own story for some reason. So this is coming from IO Interactive. It was announced a long time ago that they would be making the next James Bond game. It has been fucking 10 years, maybe? Longer? Since the last James Bond game. And even then, that was like a GoldenEye remake. I'm not sure that counts. Anyway, this is going back to very early Bond. It's like he hasn't even joined MI5 or whatever, MI6, whoever it is, MI8. So it's very early days. M is like a kind of ambitious young woman James is, not polished. He's not, martini shaken, not stirred, whatever. He's a bit rough around the edges kind of thing. Not sure if that's the right approach to go with. I mean, I get that they would have had to have, gone a bit younger if they want to make a series out of it. But kind of eschewing the kind of charm and smarminess of Bond makes it not Bond, in a way. Anyway, we'll see how it works out for them. We didn't see a ton of gameplay. We're seeing a lot of cutscenes. There's a little, there's some very small bits of it there, over the shoulder shooting, bit of melee combat. There is a driving section a little bit later on. They are clear, obviously they're going to be leveraging a lot of Hitman, obviously, IO Interactive. That's kind of all they've worked on, really, for a very long time. Kane and Lynch doesn't count. But I don't think they've ever done driving. They certainly haven't. There's no driving in any of the Hitman games. I don't know about Kane and Lynch. I'm not sure. I don't think they've ever done it. And if, in any case, they haven't done it for a while. So that might be a bit... Who knows? Anyway, there was meant to be another IO Interactive showcase. Or rather, there was an IO Interactive showcase. And we were kind of hoping there would be more James Bond stuff there. But there wasn't. They just showed the same trailer again, and they were like, yeah, there'll be a bigger reveal in August, which is Gamescom. And it's like, okay, why did you bother having a showcase? The whole IO Interactive showcase may as well have not happened. It was largely irrelevant. Anyway, speaking of also largely irrelevant, Ghost of Yotei had a brief mention, but it is going to get its own digital event at some stage later on in July. So we didn't really see anything new there. And then kind of out of nowhere, we have this Marvel fighting game. So Arxis, people behind Guilty Gear, the latest Guilty Gear games, are kind of teaming up with Marvel to make a Marvel fighting game. And it looks like they're kind of taking it for a Marvel anime vibe to it. Right, so they're leaning into a Japanese basis to it. So everyone's speaking Japanese for one. The name of the game's Marvel Tokon, and then there's a subtitle that I forget what it is, fighting something. But it's definitely trying to bring back the idea of the old Marvel fighters from Capcom. Not sure how Capcom feels about this. It looks really impressive. Just the art style alone is really nice. It is going to be a 4v4 game, so they're going to need to have a pretty huge roster, I would think. Thor is in the background there, so he'll probably be in the game. He's not in the trailer, but I imagine he will be in the game. There's loads of people missing, effectively, but it's still early days. They've only announced the game. I'm sure the roster will show up eventually. One I was actually kind of surprised is Doom. Dr. Doom showing up, and I guess it makes sense because the film or whatever will be out soon enough. But yeah, I don't know. I was actually surprised to see Doom in it. Anyway, Marvel took on fighting something. What was it? Fighting Souls. 2026 for PS5 and PC. So that was Sony's State of Play. I thought it was pretty good, pretty decent. Nothing major, but I think everything there was kind of solid. Neo 3 I was pretty surprised about, to be honest, because I thought they were done with the Neo series. Even though it made them a lot of money, I thought they had moved on from it. Final Fantasy Tactics was, I was really disappointed by it, to be honest. The artwork didn't look great. Bloodstained, I was pretty hyped for it, but it's it doesn't even have a date, so it is obviously a very long way off. Silent Hill getting a release date, that's cool. Romeo's a Dead Man was a big, yes please, hook it to my veins. I want to play that right now. Pragmata coming back from the dead, pretty great to see. Anyway, gonna move on. I've just watched the Xbox showcase, so this is still a bit fresh in my mind. So The Outer Worlds 2 now has a release date, 29th of October. It also had a pretty big deep dive after the Xbox showcase. They went into a lot of the different features and how they're improving on it and so on. You check that out in your own time. High on Life is getting a sequel, but it won't have Justin Roiland for reasons. You can look into them why. I guess if you like the original and its comedy stylings, maybe you'll like the sequel. I didn't, so I probably won't. I'm pretty hyped about this, to be honest. So Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy. It's going to be a prequel to the Plague Tale games. I've played both of them, full Let's Plays on the channel. I really like them. So this is going into a bit of the myth of like the rat control powers that Hugo had. You can watch my playthrough of the second game or play it yourself, whatever. That was called Resonance. And a lot of the latter half, not to go into too many spoilers, but a lot of the latter half of Requiem, the second game, was kind of talking about this myth and the power of the resonance back in ancient Rome and like the origins of it and stuff like that. So it looks like that's what this game will be delving into. I'm a bit bummed that it's a prequel and we're not continuing with Hugo and Amcia, but more Plague Tale. I'm happy with it. And it does look like they're going to be doing something with like the Minotaur. There's a bit of like a labyrinth and like a golden breadcrumb line kind of thing going on. It's interesting. Anyway, yeah, this will probably be a big deal. So the Xbox ROG Ally is effectively an Xbox handheld. I think we'll probably hear a lot more of this in coming days and stuff like that. So they didn't go into a huge amount of detail. It is being made by Asus, so it is effectively an Asus ROG, which already exists, but it is going to primarily focus on Xbox stuff. So I can't remember what their tagline was, something like the freedom of Windows with the power of Xbox or something like that. But it's like an Xbox focused Asus ROG, and they're like starting this new branding thing of Xbox Play Anywhere kind of thing. So they're promising a seamless console to PC to handheld experience. And you'll see, if you watch any of the trailers, you'll see there's a lot of Xbox Play Anywhere showing up in a lot of different places where you would normally see, day one on Game Pass kind of thing. There's no price, no release date or anything, but kind of funny is that they did say you'll be able to play Silksong on it when it launches, so it's never coming out, I guess. Anyway, moving on. We saw a little bit more of Blood of the Dawnwalker. This is from Rebel Wolves, who are like a ex CD Projekt Red, ex Witcher devs. Still no specific release date. It's next year. And I don't think we did have like a release window at the time either. So it is next year at some point. But no actual like date. And it was kind of pointed out here in this article, it looked a bit dark. Literally, I had trouble seeing some of the stuff in the trailer. Yeah, I kind of have to agree. The nighttime sections are really dark. And I imagine it's like an artistic choice because it's about vampires in the dark and so on. But like, I'm kind of hoping it's not actually that dark in the gameplay because it's really dark. Anyway, moving on. Super Meat Boy is getting a 3D game. It's not being made by Team Meat, so do with that information what you will. It's not to say that Sluggerfly and Head Up Games wouldn't be able to make a good game, but I'm not sure how well Super Meat Boy will translate to 3D. I'm sorry I'm skipping through these and not really looking at the trailers. There's, as you can see, 33 of them. I need to kind of move along. Anyway, Ninja Gaiden 4, the next Ninja Gaiden has a release date now, 21st of October. The Indiana Jones, The Great Circle, is getting a DLC thing, The Order of the Giants, or The Order of Giants, whatever. I think it's something to do with the Templars, possibly. Anyway, that will be 4th of September, and it will also be coming to PlayStation on the same day, so you don't have to worry about having to wait a year or whatever. Beast of Reincarnation is an interesting one, so I will play this trailer. So this is by Game Freak, ordinarily known for the Pokemon games. Also ordinarily known for not particularly great looking or performing Pokemon games, and they can churn out something like this. What the fuck are you doing, Game Freak? Anyway, this potentially is a Soulsy thing, but it's also potentially just an arcade slasher thing. I think we don't have enough of just unedited gameplay to decide which it is. But the idea is, it's, as you can see, 4026, some beast, the beast of reincarnation perhaps, descended on the world, spread a blight. Humanity is effectively on its way out, and it looks like animal life in general is on its way out and what have you. Anyway, I'm more surprised that it actually looks really good. And like, just look at the latest Pokemon games. It's like, what's going on? I'm not expecting Pokemon to be this kind of high fidelity or whatever, but it should look better than it does. Anyway, 2026 for this. This was almost this exact shot, I think, was... I'm not sure if it was leaked, actually, or not, but it was like, this is what Game Freak is also working on. And it was a kind of mushroom samurai looking thing, so this is what that turned out to be. Project Bloom, I think it was called. Anyway, Clockwork Revolution, we saw a little bit more of the gameplay around this. In fact, we saw a lot of this game, 5.5 minutes. We saw a lot of it, and yet still no release date. But anyway, it's a first-person shooter. There's a little bit of, maybe a little bit of Bioshock to it. The central gimmick of the game is a kind of time manipulation thing. So the bad guys have a time machine, and they have effectively, you know, altered events in history to ensure that they stay at the top and that revolution never happens, and so on and so forth. But hey, your character has suddenly also now has time rewindy powers, and they're gonna try to undo a lot of those things, basically. I'm trying to get to the parts where they actually show the time thing here, your time gauntlet, whatever it is. It's kind of the basic stuff: slow down time, rewind, you know, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time kind of stuff to it. A fun one is you can like take the bullets back and put them back in your gun, which is a fun idea. I'm just kind of hoping it's not just going to be a pretty bland shooter, basically. Anyway, yeah, we had everything except the release date, effectively, on that. Grounded 2, Electric Boogaloo. They got shrunk again. Only this time it's now in a public park instead of somebody's back garden. That's about it. Kronos has a release window. It's going to be autumn of this year at some point. We just don't know when exactly. This is the next thing from Bloober Team, who were fresh off Silent Hill 2. Clearly they were working on this in the background. The Elder Scrolls MMO is doing something. Don't care. Aphelion is the next thing from Don't Nod. Reminds me a lot of the Deliver Us the Moon, Deliver Us Mars games that I really like, that are very janky and I don't think anyone else likes, but I like them. Anyway, I think it's just the ESA astronaut colors. I think that's just all it is. Anyway, Aphelion is... like, I think it's just like a linear narrative thing where you are marooned on the planet Persephone. There's some mysterious shenanigans going on there, and you're looking for who I assume is your husband. But it is kind of a... like, it is very much Deliver Us Mars. Like, it really is, except that it's a frozen planet. I think Mars is... I mean, Mars is cold, right? Just kind of close enough. I had to look it up, because I thought Aphelion was like a Greek myth thing, and it is Greek, but it's not a myth thing. It just means... the point in a celestial body's orbit when it is furthest away from the closest star. So make of that which I would explain why everything is cold. But anyway, make of that what you will. Don't think there's a release window for this. Yeah, next year. Okay, there are no ghosts at the Grand. Okay, this is another one. Fuck. You know, I was saying I wasn't going to play the trailers, and I guess we're hitting the point where I was actually interested now. There Are No Ghosts at the Grand kind of starts off as a house flipper renovator kind of thing. That's what it kind of begins with. You inherit this hotel, the Grand. It's up to you to renovate it. You have a special gun thing that somehow manages to renovate the house. Don't ask questions. It's not important. But that's just your day job. You have a secondary job where you are investigating mysterious ghost shenanigans. Despite the title of the game being "There Are No Ghosts at the Grand," there are most definitely ghosts at the Grand. There's maybe a little bit of a Luigi's Mansion thing going on here. It is like tongue-in-cheek, like comedic stylings. The ghost hauntings or whatever are not. They're not meant to be scary anyway. So a bit of it is, you can see here, like photo mapping. You're trying to figure out what your father, grandfather, not sure, was doing. It also does seem like the renovation stuff isn't isolated to just the hotel. It does seem like there's going to be some renovations of the local block, but you can see here the game kind of changes tone here a little bit. Your day job is renovating, and it looks like your night job is kind of investigating various secrets and occult shenanigans going on. But like I said, it's tongue-in-cheek. It's played for comedy really more than anything else. And the cat can talk, so it's got that going for it too. Anyway, next year at some point, it does appear to be exclusive to Xbox and PC, so it doesn't look like PlayStation is seeing this one. I'm actually not sure who the developer is, so I'm not sure if it's like an Xbox first party thing or what the situation is. But anyway, for now, it seems like it's going to be an exclusive. The Age of Mythology remake is getting DLC, which is going to bring in the Japanese pantheon. So if you're into that kind of RTS stuff. Mudang Two Hearts, which I think it's Korean. I'm not sure, but it looks like it's trying to fill the void that Splinter Cell left, for like stealth stuff. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because it takes a while to get to actual gameplay. But it is like a third person over the shoulder action game, and it does look like I'm counting 3 protagonists. It's entirely possible that 2 of them are the same person. But there's definitely like a special forces guy, and there's a special forces guy who has like the full helmet, and then there's a special forces guy who just has like the headband. That could be the same guy. And then there's this woman as well, who's obviously not. Okay, fine. The 3 of them could be the same person, I guess. There's clearly like, military stuff there, but there's also some kind of supernatural rage thing going on. There's guys with like ground pounds and shit like that. There's Akuma for some reason in the prison. So it's interesting. This could just be, and it's pointed out in the Kotaku article, this could just be Unreal Engine shenanigans, and it's actually not a great game. It just looks good. Which is kind of what it's kind of something Unreal has dropped on the video game industry. It's just you've got a lot of like asset flips and kind of shitty games but they're running in Unreal Engine 5, so they look good, but they're not good games. Anyway, there's another one that appears to be Xbox exclusive. We'll see if it continues that way into the future. Planet of Lana is getting a sequel. Not something I was really expecting. So Planet of Lana 2, Children of the Leaf. The original Planet of Lana was a very pretty Limbo-like game where you are trying to rescue your village from this invading alien force that has captured them all, and you're doing that with the help of this monkey cat thing that is very cute. No, not cat, rabbit. It's more like a rabbit, actually. Anyway, I like the original Planet of Lana, so I'm a little surprised it's getting a sequel. I didn't think it did that well. Fallout 76 has fishing now. Solo leveling, I've never watched or read or whatever. Animo, yeah, I'll play the trailer for this one. So Animo is not Pokemon. It's not Pokemon, definitely not. It's also not Palworld either. So it is a creature collecting thing. and a creature then combat thing. But the slight difference, or if you like gimmick, I suppose, for Anemo is you take direct control of the creature instead. So like you have full control of the Pokemon. I'm just going to say it. You have control of the Pokemon itself. It does seem to be more of like a combination thing of your party, that your human avatar can, whatever party of 4, I'm assuming this is 4 on the side there, that's why I said 4. Like you can swap between them. I didn't see a capture mechanic in the trailer. It's possible I just missed it, but I didn't see a capturing mechanic. So I'm wondering, because this could very easily be a gacha game. Very, very easily. Like Pokemon could easily work as a gachapon game. And we're just we're just somewhat lucky that Pokemon existed before gachapon, really. Or existed before it didn't exist before gachapon, but it existed before gachas became a big video game thing. Anyway, another seemingly exclusive thing next year for Anemo. And since it doesn't have a capture mechanic, Nintendo can't sue. Palworld are still fucked, but Xbox might get away with it. All right, anyway. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 has a release date, July 11th. I think it already had a release date, to be honest. But it also has a demo available as well, if you want to check it out. Okay, Fate's End. So this is from the Spiritfarer people. And the Spiritfarer games, if you haven't played them, if you have played them, you'd be thinking this is a bit of a departure. The Spiritfarer games are more of like a cozy type game. Now, having said that, it's an emotionally devastating game, but in a cozy way, I guess. It's like helping people move on to the afterlife. It's kind of like Spiritfarer's deal. This game is not that. At Fate's End, I'm not sure it's a Metroidvania. I didn't really get that vibe from it. I imagine it has some kind of like dungeon crawling element to it. But kind of the bigger gameplay mechanic is these duels that you're having with people. And I'm not sure if it is a fully family tree thing. Because you're fighting your sister here. But later on you are fighting somebody else with the same family name. And it's not clear if that's your dad or your grandfather or what have you. There is some sort of card mechanic going on there. Actually, there are 3 characters that have your family name, so there must be some sort of family situation going on. But there's also, trying to figure out what's the way to do it. It's just, I don't know. It's very late, guys. Words are escaping me. But the idea is that you have like a dramatic, duel to decide the fate of these 2 characters, and I think that's kind of the vibe they're going for. Another exclusive. I'm a bit salty about that one because I really want to play this. I mean, I do have a decent PC now. I could probably play it, but still, I'd much rather just sit on the couch and play it on the PlayStation. Anyway, next year for that one. We're getting there. Gears of War Reloaded, multiplayer beta next week. Gears of War Reloaded is the remaster of the original. Persona 4 is getting a remake. It's the worst kept secret, I think, of the last year or so. A lot of voice actors of the original game saying unprompted that they're not coming back for the remake. Whether that's actually true now or not, I don't know. It's possible they're just going to use the audio from the original game. Anyway, it was the briefest of glimpses. This is pointed out in the article. I don't even think the video was like a minute long. It showed nothing. Anyway, it's a thing. Sea of Thieves is getting a new role, the smuggler. I don't know enough about the game to care, to be honest, but whatever. That's a thing. Invincible is getting a fighting game. I don't think Invincible has enough characters to support a fighting game, but okay. It's a 3v3 tag thing and has fatalities. moving on. Xbox is getting a couple of Final Fantasy games. So Final Fantasy 16 was shadow dropped, which we played on the channel. I am intending to get back to my Final Fantasy series playthrough. We stopped at Final Fantasy 6. I know we didn't get very far, but I am planning to get back to it soon. I just have some personal life stuff that I need to get through first. Anyway, Final Fantasy 16 was shadow dropped today on Xbox, and then Final Fantasy 7 Remake will be making its way on winter. So whenever that is. The next thing from Double Fine is not Psychonauts 2. Or 3, rather. It's The Keeper. So this is a... How to explain this game? I imagine it's some kind of walking sim type situation. But you are this ambulatory, potentially sentient lighthouse, accompanied by what I'm just going to call a seagull, even though it isn't a seagull, but I'm going to call it that anyway. And you're trying to get somewhere, not sure where exactly. And I guess you'll learn things about friendship along the way or something. Anyway, it looks fun. And it's something for Double Fine to do that isn't Psychonauts, for a change. Anyway, that's The Keeper, 17th of October. It's coming out pretty soon as well, this year. Because that was the first we've heard of the game. Phil Spencer dropped by to say some shit. And then they finished with Call of Duty Black Ops 7, which tricked me into looking like a good game. And then they said it was a Call of Duty game, and I went, no. Bold. I refuse. I refuse to take the bait. It's gonna be a shitty shooter, like usual. Alright, anyway. That was the Xbox showcase. I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good. Is there a way to just list... Alright. Outer Worlds 2, the big deep dive, yeah, I do want to play it now. I actually kind of want to go back and play the original. I don't care about High on Life. I'm pretty hype about The Plague Tale. A bit sad it's not a sequel, but I'll take a prequel. This, I think, will be a bigger deal than it was kind of made out on the showcase, but we don't really know enough about the Xbox ROG Ally X. There's two models. There's the X model and the no letter model. Blood of the Dawnwalker continues to look really good, but also really dark, so hopefully they'll do something about that. Super Meat Boy, the 3D game, it looked fine. I was never super into the Super Meat Boy games anyway, so I don't have a dog in the race here, but we'll see how the transition to 3D works out for it. Ninja Gaiden has a release date, cool. It's gonna be way too hard, so I'm probably not gonna play it. Indiana Jones getting some DLC, yeah, grand. I haven't played the core game yet, so I don't know. Game Freak can actually make a good-looking game with Beasts of Reincarnation. We'll see how it turns out, because the gameplay was very choppy, lots of quick edits. We'll see if it actually, actually looks good. Clockwork Revolution did show off a lot of gameplay, but didn't give us a release date, which is a little weird. I would imagine it's soon enough, because it seems good to go, really. Grounded 2, it's probably a big deal to some people. I don't particularly care. It's launching into early access as well, which I'm also not a big fan of. Chronos: A New Dawn has its release date coming out in autumn or at some point. Elder Scrolls is doing a thing. Don't know, it's Aphelion. It'll be alright, I'll play it. It'll be fine. There are no Ghosts at the Grand. I want to see more unedited gameplay, but I think I'll be interested in it. I'm not really an RTS Civ guy, so I'm not hugely into Age of Mythology. Mudang Two Hearts might be tricking us into thinking it's a good game. We'll see. But I'd be here for some more Splinter Cell, because when was the last Splinter Cell? Anyway, Planet of Lana getting his kind of surprise sequel. It's pointed out here. I was surprised. I don't care about Fallout 76. I have no idea what solo leveling even is. It's an anime. That's about it. That's about as far as I got. Anemo. I need to know it's not a gachapon before I can really get excited about it, because I have too many gachapons going, really. I'm already in Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, and I'm going to get into Zenless Zone Zero. I don't need more of those. Anyway, If anything, I have too many. I need to cut a few. Tony Hawk's has a demo available now if you want to check it out. Fate's End from Spiritfarer looks like it'll be a pretty interesting action game. Gears of War has a multiplayer beta next week. Persona 4 Remake is a thing, but that's it. That's all the news we have. Sea of Thieves is getting a new role, a new class, whatever. Invincible Versus is a fighter with fatalities for some reason in the year of our Lord, and it's not Mortal Kombat. Anyway, there was a glut of fighting games when Mortal Kombat came out initially, and kind of the only thing they really had going for them was fatalities. Like, the idea was that the reason Mortal Kombat was popular was only because of the fatalities. Now, it helped. It definitely helped. But it was also a solid beat-em-up. And those other games were not solid beat-em-ups, so the Invincible Versus game didn't look great, to be honest. Anyway, Xbox getting some Final Fantasy stuff. The new thing from Double Fine looks like it'll be a bit trippy. The Phil Spencer thing, he kind of just name-dropped a couple of IPs. Forza, Halo, something else, I don't remember, Fable. And then Call of Duty tricked me into thinking it was a good game. Anyway, we're still not done, though, because now we have the big one, which was probably the most disappointing of all of them. Summer Games Fest. So this was the Geoff Keighley thing. I only have this kind of live blog thing from PC Gamer. For whatever reason, tons of articles just have a kind of shit recap. Maybe it's because everyone was kind of a bit disappointed by it. I don't know, but a lot of articles were just... There was no, here's everything we saw at Summer Games Fest. Let's put it that way. Anyway, Summer Game Fest... Geoff talks a little bit about indie games and how small teams are showing that great things can be made, and then glossing over the fact that those small teams are a lot bigger than you think they are, and they're also getting more funding than you think they're getting. And I kind of feel like it's a bit of a... I don't want to get into this now, but there's kind of a bit of a Trojan horse, where a lot of the marketing around how small the team is and stuff like that is a way to drive down costs and a way to cut developers to say, hey, a solo dev could do all of this shit. And they're not talking about how that solo dev needed help from animators, artists, sound engineers, and so on. They're not talking about that. There's even a great... We'll get to it when we get to it. There's a great line that I have seen memed pretty hard after that. Anyway, Mortal Shell 2 is coming to Steam 2026. So another game that I really wasn't expecting to get a sequel. Mortal Shell was a pretty short Souls-like kind of thing. It had its fans, and it also had probably more detractors. The kind of gimmick of the game was you're kind of playing this sort of parasite in some ways, and you jump into shells, fallen warriors who have a build, basically. So I'm going to jump into this fallen tank guy, basically, and I'll be a tank. Or I'll jump into this fallen thief, and I have a much more agile build and so on. What frustrated me with Mortal Shell, it's very parry heavy. There's no real, your dodge is very slow and your block is kind of on a cooldown sort of thing. You have this ability to harden yourself, and that's effectively your block, but it's not something you can just hold in place. It's on a cooldown. So I kind of found it a bit frustrating to play. So if they can assuage those problems, that would be nice. I have a feeling they're going to lean into those problems even further, but I guess we'll find out. There's some pretty cool enemy designs. And then there was also just a guy with a big face, and I'm not sure if that's really a design so much as just a mistake in the modeling, and they just kept it because it looked funny. You do have a gun this time around, which is interesting. Anyway, Mortal Shell 2 next year at some point. Hideo Kojima was brought on to show off a clip that really didn't show anything about Death Stranding 2. I don't know why they bothered. It's just some guy talking to his therapist, and there's some speculation here about what his name actually is. He's Bob Tired Man. He's I sat in the wrong chair man. He's I was denied the smoke break and so on. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Chronicles Medieval Early Access. I don't know what kind of game this is, since the vast majority of it was a CG trailer. I don't know what the gameplay is. I'm not sure if it's a chivalry or an RTS type thing or what. Sonic Cross World showed off a bit more karting action with the Sonic guys. There's also going to be some cameo appearances from a few Sega alumni. So Joker from Persona 5 will be playable. Ichiban from the newer Like a Dragon games. And there was a third. I can't remember. He did have this kind of throwaway line, though. Unlike another kart racing game, this game will have online cross-platform and matchmaking. So you can race against all your friends across all the platforms, which is attributed as a slight at Mario Kart. But I don't think we were ever expecting Mario Kart to appear on anything other than a Nintendo platform. So I'm not sure where he's going with that. Another sequel that... What the fuck? Where's that coming from? Code Vein 2. Out next year. Code Vein was a anime Souls-like thing where you played a vampire. Code Vein 2... I don't think you're playing a vampire anymore. There's some kind of time travel thing going on. So not sure what that's about. End of Abyss is from a few devs from Tarsier Studios. Or rather ex-developers from Tarsier Studios. So the people behind Little Nightmares. And it's kind of a pretty cool isometric horror thing. I say isometric even though that's an over-the-shoulder thing. It's like the camera angle's a bit strange. That's all I'm going to say. It might not be isometric. Well, that's a horrible creature I hope I never encounter. I thought those hand monsters were only in Elden Ring. Now they're in this game as well. Not a huge amount known about End of Abyss. But there does seem to be an AI gone wrong element to it, and the Abyss makes it sound like it's an underwater situation. Anyway, next year at some point, they're still trying to make Game of Thrones a thing, so there's an RTS Game of Thrones along the way. The trailer was CG. It did have the actor who plays Jon Snow. I don't know I never watched the show. I have no idea. Does Game of Thrones still have appeal? I thought the final season really just soured everybody on it. That's the vibe I get from it. So I don't know about them, making games based on the property. Warner Brothers owns it, and they have so many other IP they could be doing stuff with. They have the DC superheroes that obviously they fucked up with Suicide Squad, and clearly they expected Suicide Squad to do well because they're doing fucking nothing with them otherwise, and then cancel the Wonder Woman game. And they have Mortal Kombat, I suppose, but they've also ended support for Mortal Kombat 1. The new Mortal Kombat 1? I know, just stick with me. The naming convention is all over the place. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, Atomic Heart 2 is in development. I reluctantly will click on the trailer because it was a bit cringe, to be honest. I don't know how well Atomic Heart was received critically. Commercially, I think it did pretty well. Critically, I think it was kind of a 7, 8 out of 10 game. It did have a bit of a Bioshock vibe to it. But yeah, I never played it. I think I have it, actually. I think I bought it when it was on sale, but I haven't actually played it. Anyway, Atomic Heart 2, I think, is more of a spiritual sequel rather than a real... I don't think it's continuing the story exactly, because as far as I'm aware, Atomic Heart had multiple endings, and those endings don't really work together. You couldn't say that, oh yeah, all of the endings happened and the sequel is just going to continue from there. It's they're very different. So I'm not sure if they're just going to go with one of those endings and just say that's the canonical one, or if this is just a whatever, has nothing to do with the original game. They're showing off a lot. It gives me the impression that they're going for maybe a Far Cry thing. Atomic Heart was a fairly... Again, I haven't played it, so I might be wrong, but I think Atomic Heart was a fairly linear narrative game. And I think they're going for a bit more of an open map more of a sandbox thing for Atomic Heart 2. I said reluctantly click on it. Yeah, there's a lot of titillation near the end of the trailer. That's a bit... There it is, right? Anyway, skip. There's a lot of the cameraman doing his job a little too well with, you know, idling on boobs and cleavage and arse and so on and so forth. And it gets worse, honestly, as the trailer goes on. So I'm going to stop here before we get there any too further. I don't want to get banned. I'm not against titillation or whatever. I think it was just so overt and so out of place with every other game. And I also think it speaks to that side of the video game community who are all women aren't sexy anymore brr guys. So it gives me like a not great feeling and a not a I don't want to play Atomic Heart feeling, more or less. Anyway, I don't think it had a release date. Trying to see if there is. No, they didn't. They also showed off The Cube, which is going to be an MMO thing that is also set in the Atomic Heart universe, and that had even more women in impractical clothing situation. Anyway, again, not against it. It's just you pointed the camera directly at her crotch. Like, what? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, you can have the titillation. Just don't make it so obvious. It's like the sun. Don't look directly at it. Don't look directly at the cleavage with the camera. It sends the wrong message. Anyway, Onimusha Way of the Sword had another trailer, and I think this was somewhat glossed over in a couple of articles that I've read since, but the boss he's fighting here, and I'm afraid I'm going to skip through a little bit of the gameplay here to get to him. The boss he's fighting here, that's the first boss from the first game. Now, I don't know if it's like literally the same character, but it's the exact same style. You know, big, dumb guy with the big club and the tusks. And like, he looks exactly like him. It's not the same voice, so I'm not sure if they're going with the same thing. This is kind of interesting from a story standpoint. You have an antagonist who also has the gauntlet. So at one point, he was considered an ally of the Ogre clan. I'm going to get into Onimusha lore, but that's an interesting one. Because if he is actually a villain, he shouldn't still have it. So it's curious why he still has it and so on. Anyway, we move on. Felt that boxing is a pun, obviously. But the deal with felt that boxing is... You're a puppet and you're boxing, and it's a bit of a Mike Tyson super punch out situation. It's also a bit like foul, like the dialogue and so on. And there's a bit where you're unclogging the toilet, and your coach says like I've been shitting in there all day or something like that. It's a bit foul. But I think one of the more interesting things is how impressive it looks visually. Like, that is all allegedly in-game. And that's very impressive. Anyway, moving on. Killer Inn is a social deduction shooter. So it's Among Us, basically, again. So think Mungus, think Werewolf, think Mafia, think Blood on the Clock Tower, or any of those kind of games. It is a Square Enix thing, so it's another live service multiplayer thing, even though they had Foam Stars, the Splatoon thing that they shut down. Guess they're trying it again, I don't know. Square Enix said they were tightening their belt, and yet they're coming out with something that is almost certainly already cancelled. Anyway, Arc Raiders, speaking of already cancelled, Arc Raiders is an extraction shootery type thing. I think we're kind of done. Like, Marathon seems to have poisoned the well for extraction shooters, but they're going to try anyway. Arc Raiders, 30th of October release date. When this game was initially pitched, it was going to be a PvE thing, where it was going to be like 60 players versus these titanic robot, like walking battle tank thing. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll play that. And now it's a PvPvE thing. Why? Why you gotta ruin it by putting that second P in? Anyway. It's like porn. Anyway. Chrono Odyssey has a playtest coming 20th of June. Chrono Odyssey is a kind of MMO Souls, in a way. I'm a little annoyed they don't have a trailer here. Wuthering Waves is a gacha thing. It has a new update. There was actually a bunch of gacha things shown off Summer Game Fest. Mio Memories of Orbit has a demo out now. It's a pretty cool looking Metroidvania. I am actually going to start speeding up here. Out of Words is a It Takes Two split fiction type thing, but not by Hazelight. And the central gimmick is that you can't talk. So that'll be an interesting one. Lego Voyagers is a very cute kind of co-op thing. It does feel like it's another bespoke It Takes two-player thing. But you're little Lego pieces and you build things to help each other overcome obstacles and stuff like that. It actually does look fun. Nicktoons and the Dice of Destiny was very, very briefly shown off, but it looks like it is the Nicktoons characters. SpongeBob specifically was shown off, but there will be other characters doing some kind of dungeon crawling, maybe Dungeons and Dragons situation. The Lies of P DLC is out today. Actually, it was a couple of days ago. Fractured Blooms is a thing from Serenity Forge. I don't really understand the game, to be honest. It's some kind of farming sim thing, or slice of life thing, but there's also a pretty strong horror vibe as well. Yeah, there's the anime block. There was just a lot of anime stuff. They all looked interchangeable, to be perfectly honest. Jurassic World Evolution 3 is out near the end of October. I feel like they're making too many of these too quickly, that there can't be a massive improvement between them. I may be wrong. I'm not really following it. Yeah, Yacht Club Games showed off a new trailer for Mina the Hollower. This is kind of the next thing from the Shovel Knight devs. Mina the Hollower, again, was a Kickstarter title, which I have backed. And it's kind of a throwback to some of the older Castlevania games, whereas Shovel Knight was more of a throwback to kind of like Mega Man in some ways. Anyway, there's a demo available for it. It's either now or like by the time you watch this, the demo will be available. But it also is coming out on Halloween, and I honestly wasn't expecting it that soon. I figured we'd have another year or so for Mina the Hollower, so that's pretty cool. It's also important to point out that Shovel Knight had a shit ton of post-game additions, we'll say, updates and what have you, new characters, new areas, new abilities, stuff like that. So I imagine Mina the Hollower will have much the same support, or I'm hoping it'll have much the same support. So October 31st, and there's already a demo available. There's a Deadpool VR game. It's exclusive to MetaQuest, so that means like 2 people will get to play it. And it also announced itself by making a Silk Song joke, which probably has not enamored it to the vast majority of gamers. It was like, skip the Silk Song trailer and play this one instead. So it's like, I mean, it's not like they actually had a Silk Song trailer to show. It's I don't know. Anyway, it is a very Deadpool thing to do, I suppose. Dying Light the Beast. It's what started out as being Dying Light DLC, became its own game. Anyway, it's out in August at some stage. Mixtape is a coming of age 80s thing. Has a pretty good soundtrack, but who is this for? I guess is my question. Like, it's not that you can't have a coming of age 80s throwback thing, film, TV show, but a video game, it's gonna be kind of niche. Like, very niche. Like, I mean, there are a lot of niche video games. It's not like that's a new thing. I just feel like the level of marketing it's getting is that they're expecting a lot of people to play it. And that is I suppose that's the expectation with a lot of... I don't know where I'm going with this. My point is, it's a coming of age thing set in the 80s where you're a teenager who's just finished school in the 80s. that would mean now you're like in your 50s or older. You know? Like, it's not to say there aren't people in that age group. Maybe not 50s. You're close to your 50s, maybe. It's not to say that people in that age group aren't, don't play video games, but like, that can't be a huge demographic, really. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that a little bit. Anyway, moving on. More anime things. Toa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree. It's kind of roguelike thing. I don't know. I'm trying to, because I am honestly trying to remember what it was. I could just play the trailer, but I'm not going to. I'm going to move on. All right. Anyway, Acts of Blood looks pretty amazing for a solo developed game. So here's the memeing, right? Because he said, this is a game made by a solo developer, and then later on, it was this guy and 9 of his friends worked on this game. It's like, it's not really a solo developed game, then, is it? Anyway, it's Acts of Blood is a kind of a Sifu type game, but it's a lot closer to, like, a lot of people are saying, and I say a lot of people, articles, Kotaku, here, but it's like Eurogamer saying much the same thing. It's like saying like it's like Sifu, and I would say it's a lot closer to like a Double Dragon, really. Like it's a lot closer to the old school brawler type games, Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, that kind of thing. Sifu is a lot more, how to explain it? Sifu is way more technical, whereas I don't really get the same level of like technical stuff here. This does feel like more of a button masher than anything else. Did that trailer end a little bit early? I don't know. Anyway, that's the early game, and then this is what the game looks like now. Yeah, this is the wrong trailer. This isn't the trailer they showed at the Summer Game Fest. Anyway, it looks impressive. They're clearly going for the Raid 2 in particular, and I think it's set in Indonesia as well, so that makes sense. Like, it looks impressive, but it's not one guy. It's not one guy working on this. There's many guys working on this. Anyway, there's a new Scott Pilgrim game. It's about 10 years too late. Okay. First Descendant is a live service thing. Anyway, it's getting some new shit. I don't care. Who cares? Mind's Eye used the Mad World song that obviously belongs to Gears of War. But maybe it's been long enough that nobody remembers. I don't know. Pretty bad choice. Anyway, we will talk about Mind's Eye a little bit later. Wildgate. Fuck, I don't even remember this game. I don't know. Sea of Thieves in space. Okay, sure. But I don't know what it was. I'm going to move on. Blighted is the next thing from Drinkbox. Drinkbox are the Guacamelee guys. Or Nobody Saves the World, you might know, or Severed. I think it's Severed, Sundered, something like that. This is their next game. A lot of articles are saying it's a Hades-like, and I kind of get where they're coming from an art style side of things. Like, it's an isometric dungeon crawling thing, but it's not. It's a Metroidvania. Obviously, the difference here being that Hades is a roguelike game. You're meant to die and repeat the dungeon multiple times and get better at it and so on. Whereas this is more of a sprawling map situation. Anyway, it looks pretty cool. I don't think they had it's just a coming soon situation for this. Ill made me feel ill. That's fair. That's fair. This game looks pretty gross. So it's Mundfish Powerhouse, which is the publishing arm of Mundfish. Mundfish are the Atomic Heart guys. Yeah, this game looks gross. Really, really gross. Horrible, naked dudes. Luckily with no peen. Maybe that might be for the trailer. They might have peen in the game. Who knows? Look, if Mundfish are gonna focus, the camera on vag and cleavage and arse and so on, then they gotta be equal opportunity. So if anything, there should be more dick in this trailer. Anyway, Ill looks like just a gross shooter. Any actual story elements to it, I don't know. Some of the monster design is interesting, and then some of the monster design is just gross. Wish list now. No release date. We're nearly there, guys. We're actually not. We haven't even got to the update section. This video is going to take a fucking million years. Mecha Break, 1st of July. The trailer they showed off was almost entirely CG, so I don't know what to make of it. Infinitesimals is kind of a... I'm just going to play the trailer because I don't think I'll be able to make it make sense. It's like small scale mill shooter, I guess, in some case. So you are like the size of, you know, very small creature, grounded kind of situation. You're in a garden or you're in a park or forest or whatever, but you're very small. But all of the tech is like, you know, super sci-fi stuff, and you got these little robots and VTOLs and stuff moving about the place, and then, you know, giant ants and beetles and stuff are like massive titans that you're having to fight and so on. I don't know what kind of game it is. This is why I'm a little concerned about it. Because I think I saw a little bit of base building there. I'm not sure if it's like a linear narrative thing or if there's some element of multiplayer to it or what. We don't know. Anyway, it's 2026 for that one. Capcom confirms a new Resident Evil is coming, but you're going to have to wait for it. More on that in a second. Street Fighter 6 has some new characters coming. Sagat, Sea Viper, Alex, Ingrid. That will mean something to somebody, I'm sure. There's a capture flag game. Okay, sure. There's a new Wu-Tang game. A lot of people were hyped for it. Not me. I don't know. I'm not really up to date or whatever Wu-Tang situations. It looked interesting though. It looked pretty cool. But I don't know. There was a lot of hype for it that I didn't quite get. Anyway, Stranger Than Heaven. This was previously known as Project Century. So this is by the Ryuga Gotoku studio, the Yakuza game developer. Previously, when we saw this game, it was set in like the early 1900s, 1910 or something like that, 1920 maybe. Whereas this is clearly in like the 60s now, maybe the 50s, something like that. Anyway, so there's clearly some kind of, even earlier than that, 1943. Where am I going with this? Yeah, that's a pretty significant time jump. So there's clearly some element of timeline going on. I don't know if it's a case of you following like one or like a couple of generations of the same family or something like that through the century, or if you're just the one guy who's fucking long lived or an elf or something. I don't know. We didn't get a whole lot of information about the game. Anyway, used to be Project Century, now it is Stranger Than Heaven. And then, hey, we'll get back to that Resident Evil thing, because, yeah, you'll just have to wait. And when he said you'll have to wait, he meant like 20 minutes. So Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil 9 was the big Summer Game Fest game. And considering its competition, it kind of easily blew everything else out of the water. Because otherwise, Summer Game Fest would have been a pretty big snooze fest. Anyway, this is a lengthy enough trailer. We have this lady, FBI agent. I missed her first name, but her second name is Ashcroft. And Ashcroft is, I think, one of the Resident Evil Outbreak characters. I'm not sure if it's the same character. Probably not, but she might be. Anyway, story-wise, we don't know too much. It's going to be sending her to like a small town, middle America kind of thing, where there's been an outbreak of some kind of virus. Kind of somewhat a repeat of Raccoon City in some ways. I don't know. There's a nice shot here of Raccoon City. This is what happened at the end of Resident Evil 3. The nuke goes off. I think there's a shot of the RP. Yeah, there's the RPD there and so on. So if you hadn't figured out it was a Resident Evil game by now, this was kind of your your way of knowing. I think everybody knew it was a Resident Evil game as soon as they saw your one's hair. Like, it was quite clearly the Resident Evil engine, the RE engine here. It was really a case of, is this like a brand new IP from Capcom? But I think they have too many IPs going right now, so I think at this point it was like, yeah, this is Resident Evil. Anyway, yeah, this was when. Fourth victim of unidentified disease. Like, yeah, it's Resident Evil. Okay, anyway, moving on. Sorry, there was a release date for it as well, and it's actually way sooner than anybody thought. It's like, yeah, 27th of February next year. So that's pretty soon. I imagine we'll hear a lot more about it closer to the release date. So yeah, that was Summer Game Fest. There's a couple of other things here. Wuchang Fallen Feathers got a new trailer. The game's out pretty soon, 24th of July. Yeah, the Splitgate 2 guy, we'll talk about him later. Actually, we might not. I think I took him out of the article list. Yeah, he came on stage and he was talking about how, oh, I want to bring... Okay, first of all, he was wearing a parody MAGA hat, which is not a great start. Right? It was Make FPS Great Again, was the hat he was wearing. And he was going to be saying, like, oh, I'm tired of, like, playing the same Call of Duty game every year, and I want Titanfall 3, so we're going to bring back FPSs to their heyday. And then launches a fucking Battle Royale. Anyway, twat. There's a couple of... I don't know, there's a Guild Wars 2 thing is doing something. Mongol Star Drive is apparently not Honkai Star Rail, but it might as well fucking be. Into the Unwell would actually look kind of interesting. It is a kind of roguelike type thing, but the idea is that you're fighting like your inner demons, like your alcoholism and like gambling addiction and stuff like that, and you're thrown down the unwell to get well, like climbing back up out of the unwell is how you get better again, etc. Anyway, like RE9 was clearly the standout thing. We still don't really know enough about Stranger Than Heaven to say anything about it. Blighted will probably be pretty good. Do we have anything else? Mina the Hollower, yeah. Again, it's much sooner than I was expecting to. Onimusha, but we already knew about it. You know, I don't think we saw anything new there. Anyway, I think what kind of just, well, not disappointed exactly, but it was kind of a gross feeling when there was the bookending of Atomic Heart 2 with its clearly provoking thing of lingering on, you know, female objectification, and then having the guy with the parody MAGA hat at the end of the showcases, you know, having those two sandwiching. It doesn't leave a great impression. Anyway, we're gonna move on. There's a couple of other updates outside of that. Unreal had the Unreal-a-Palooza thing, and in there was like almost a 15-minute Witcher 4 tech demo. Now, we will stress tech demo. This is not what the game will look like. This is what the game could look like, but we don't know if it'll actually look like that. I'm going to skip ahead to a part where you can actually see what the fuck's going on. They're showing off a lot of things here. What they're really showing off is how the new Unreal Engine updates can handle open spaces. And I've talked before about how the Unreal Engines don't really handle open worlds that well. You know, they're not great with them. And the idea is that the new one will be way better. And they say that every time, and it's not always true. I guess the idea is that like the developers are moving a little faster than the engine is, and that's kind of a good thing. You don't want the engine moving too fast. You know, you want the engine to be mostly stable and static so you can work on your game for 6 years. You don't want it changing out from under you and so on while you're in the middle of development. Anyway, this is a lengthy video. I am not going to go through the whole thing, but it is certainly a very impressive tech demo. And the link will be in the description if you want to check it out yourself. Outside of that, we just got an announcement that Wizards of the Coast, the D&D guys, are partnering with Giant Skull. Giant Skull are former Respawn devs. So Stig Asmussen is specifically a Star Wars Jedi guy. So his new outfit, Giant Skull, will be working on an all-new single-player action-adventure title set in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. So it is not necessarily a D&D game. So don't be expecting Baldur's Gate 4 levels of stuff here. This will be more of a action RPG thing. This will be a lot closer to a Star Wars Jedi game or a God of War thing as well. Stig Asmussen also worked on the original God of War games. Anyway, we're not sharing any further information. It's currently in development for PC and console. That's all we know. That's it. That's the news. Anyway, free games over on the Epic Games Store. Deathloop, the arcane, somewhat roguelike thing that I wasn't a huge fan of, but some people are. Anyway, it's free on the Epic Games Store if you want to check it out. And the other game is Ogu and the Secret Forest. It's I don't know, I've never heard of it. Explore the wonderful world with Baby Ogu. It's a 2D adventure game, hand-drawn characters, puzzles, bouncy characters, strange creatures, unravel the mystery of a charming world. Okay, sounds fine. Coming up to the middle of the month, so we have the Xbox Game Pass first wave. It's decent enough, I suppose. The EA football game from last year. Space Marine, the original Warhammer Space Marine, the remastered edition. Should be in the Ultimate tier. The Altars, which is that kind of clone management thing. FBC Firebreak, which is the multiplayer control game. Lost in Random, The Eternal Die, I think is a sequel, and it's kind of a puzzle platformer type thing. Crash Bandicoot 4, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, making its way over to standard. Those are the remastered versions. Barbie Project Friendship. Okay. And Kingdom 2 Crowns. It's an okay lineup. Like a couple of those are day ones. Like the Space Marine, Altars, and FBC Firebreak, I believe, are all day one games. The rest are not. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you want to play something right now? Hey, did you know the Switch 2 came out this week? Because I fucking didn't. Alright, anyway. No, I did. It just got absolutely lost in all of the other news. Anyway, Mario Kart World obviously is the flagship game for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's a somewhat open world Mario Kart game. 24 racers in a race, potentially. Whether you actually have you and 23 other friends, probably not. So they're going to be mostly randos. It's a Mario Kart game. I don't know what else to say. I'm sure it's very good. The reviews suggest it is very good. It's a Nintendo first party. It is at best going to be, at worst going to be at least good. Anyway, it's to me at least, it's not a system seller. It's why I have no real. Okay, the real reason I have no intention of buying a Switch 2 is because of how expensive it is. But the other side of it, which made it very easy, was that there are no games on it that I have any interest in, really. Anyway, Mario Kart World, I might get around to playing it at some point. Elsewhere on the Switch 2, Fast Fusion. Skipping ahead, Bravely Default's the next one. Fast Fusion is Wipeout, but because Sony shuttered Studio Liverpool, and so we're not going to get any more Wipeout games, not anytime soon anyway, somebody else had to make Wipeout, so these guys did instead. You could also argue that it's also F-Zero, because Nintendo refused to make a new F-Zero game, so these guys did that too. Anyway, from what I've heard, it's very good racing game. Anyway, that's Fast Fusion. Then Bravely Default. The Bravely Default remaster. I really want to play it because it had been, I think, 3DS only. So it's never been on a platform that I actually own, and it's also still not on a platform I actually own because I don't have a Switch 2. Anyway, it's a pretty good old school JRPG, but made with, like, at the time, modern graphics. Anyway, outside of the Switch 2, we have Among Ashes, which is a kind of horror throwback thing. So it's a bit of a meta game. You are playing a game within a game. So you start off by playing a kind of a first-person Resident Evil in some ways, but as you're playing through this game, some shenanigans are happening inside your own home, and the kind of gist of it is you need to finish the game to avoid whatever curse you've invited into your house situation. Anyway, it seems interesting. And then we have Dragon is Dead, which is, or was, early access. It now has its 1.0 release this week. Dragon is Dead is a kind of 2D, kind of side-scrolling. I'm not sure it's a Soulsy type thing. I think it's more of just like a hack and slash thing. It's just very messy. Is kind of what I'm seeing from the video. So this might be a case of this is like a high-level character and they have a lot of bullshit going on, and maybe like lower level, you'll understand what's going on before you get into all of the mess. Not sure. It does strike me as maybe a Soulsy type thing, but I'm not 100% on that. Anyway, that's Dragon is Dead. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So we're going to start off with some good news, because the rest of it is kind of shit news. Anyway, as you might imagine. Anyway, Tango Gameworks office reopens, now recruiting staff for unannounced action games. So you may recall the Hi-Fi Rush developer, Tango Gameworks, was shut down by Microsoft last year, even though they made a fucking blockbuster game. Still got shit canned anyway. Which made a lot of developers question, the fuck are we doing? Why are we even making games if even the, like... It basically, you know, pulled back the curtain on the excuse that this game didn't make all of the money, so we're gonna shut you down. And they find a game that did make all of the money, and they still shut you down. So anyway, they were acquired by Krafton August of last year, and had been working remotely up until now. So now they have an actual office they can go back to, so they can have hybrid stuff, get people working, collaborating together, etc., etc. Whether they're going to continue their hybrid stuff, but now they do have like an office as well. That's kind of like the you know, they're back, you know, they're not dead anymore kind of thing. It took us some time, but the official office for Tango Gameworks Incorporated is open, and our hybrid work environment finally has its in-office counterpart. These things take time, but our office in Tokyo is back open as we fill it with our memorabilia from our projects and begin decorating based on our new brand identity. So they've changed the logo. They're Tango Gameworks Inc. now instead, and I think the logo used to be a snail. But now it's the kind of Torigate kind of looking thing. Anyway, that's the good news. The bad news is unfortunately everything afterwards. Oh wait, no, this is actually good news too. The director of Final Fantasy Tactics gets political. So with the announcement of the remake, kind of messages came out from some of the two original creators. We've got the creative director and the writer, scenario writer, talking about things. So this is the scenario writer specifically. Kind of comes out with a bit of a political message. So Final Fantasy Tactics is a game about, this is from Kotaku specifically, is a game about flawed people struggling against wave after wave of entrenched injustice and evil, hoping that at some point their small contributions might one day ripple outward to create a better world. Does that sound a little too close to current event? It's a message that the PS1 Classics director says remains all too relevant ahead of a remaster arriving this fall. He's not wrong. Anyway, so there were two messages. The first was from the art director Hiroshi Minagawa, and then the second was from original script scenario writer and editor Yasumi Matsuno, which is the more of the political one. So 30 years ago, the collapse of Japan's, oh, I said that so weird, bubble economy engulfed the nation's financial institutions in mountains of bad debt, triggering a wave of corporate bankruptcies, a sudden and extreme rise in unemployment rates, and stagnation of Japanese society as a whole. Yeah, it was just pretty bad, alright. It was an era when many were robbed of hope, when dreams were measured by their price tag. Against this historical backdrop, I crafted a story. It was the story of Ramza, a young man who fought tirelessly against the entrenched social class system. The story of Delita, who sought to take advantage of this confusion and despair to advance his own social position. Who does that sound like? It was a story of a peculiar destiny in which friendship and betrayal intertwine. And now, in 2025, a time when inequality and division are still deeply rooted in society, I offer the story once again. The will to resist is in your hands. You can make of that message what you will, but I think it is important to point out that the stuff that they were talking about in Final Fantasy Tactics has not changed. It is actually also kind of funny that there are a couple of like doctored screenshots of Final Fantasy Tactics going around where Ramza is saying like very we should seize the means of production kind of messaging that isn't in the game, but it fits him so well that a lot of people thought it's like it is actually a quote from the game. It's not, but it fits him so well. It's kind of hilarious. Anyway, now we're into the bad news. All right, a boys club above the law. Former Ubisoft execs in court for alleged sexual harassment and abuse. Nice. So this is going all the way back to 2020, is when these events allegedly happened. We first heard about the story in 2023, where several former Ubisoft executives were taken into custody by French police. There were allegations of sexual harassment, workplace abuse, sexism, and violence going back to 2020. Now, some of these executives have appeared in court in France, in a place I'm not even going to attempt. Oh, I'm going to attempt. Fuck it, I'm going to attempt. Bobigny? Seine-Saint-Denis? Okay, that one I think I got right, but I did not get the first one right. Anyway, to defend their alleged role in cultivating a workplace where women were frequently assaulted or humiliated by senior members of staff. Cool. The former Ubisoft executive in question, Serge Hascoët, which is former chief creative officer. We have Tommy Francois, who's vice president of editorial, and then we have game director Guillaume Patrux. Serge was allowed to resign after the 2020 allegations, and denies any knowledge of reprehensible acts committed by collaborators at Ubisoft and did not receive any reports of this. Sure you didn't? Anyway, so some of the things that were mentioned in court. One Ubisoft staffer characterized Ubisoft as a boys' club above the law. Characterized these three executives as a boys' club above the law. One woman was reportedly informed that wearing a coat with a red lining was an invitation to rape. Cool. Her outfit had given somebody an erection. Was he you? How else would he know? Did he check? Did he ask people? Or was... Anyway. Did somebody come over and go, hey, boss, she gave me an erection. You are fired. Anyway. More serious allegations, tying a female employee to a chair and pushing her into an elevator. Another had her face drawn on with a marker and was forced to attend a meeting without washing it off. Men were also targeted. There was an office game involved, grabbing their genitals through their trousers. This is a great place to work, honestly. But wait, it gets worse. A Muslim developer reports being ostracized after the 2015 jihadist Bataclan concert hall attacks in Paris. She also allegedly found bacon sandwiches placed on her desk and thrown at her during Ramadan. That's some good shit you guys got right there. Few of the individual alleged abuses were attributed to these executives specifically. So Hascoët is said to have told staff that he should have sex with a colleague in a meeting room in front of everyone to show how to calm her down. What the fuck? Alright, Francois is accused of trying to kiss a woman on the mouth while his colleagues restrained her. Amazing. Francois reportedly told the court this week that I had never tried to harm anyone. No, it was the other people holding her back, I guess. And that there had been a culture of joking around. Boys will be boys. You'll note he didn't refute the allegation. He didn't say, no, I didn't do that. Boys will be boys was his excuse. Good shit. Patrux, the third guy, miming physical attacks, throwing equipment across the open office, drawing swastikas on notebooks during meetings, and cracking a whip near colleagues' faces. Good shit. Anyway, Ubisoft, back in 2020, apologized to everyone affected and then proceeded to do nothing about it. They said they were going to do something about it and then didn't. Anyway, Ubisoft staff in 2021 launched a public petition condemning the company for a lack of meaningful or transparent progress, and then 2022 Gmo decides to say that, oh no, we definitely did thing. Remember, we got rid of that guy when it became abundantly clear and very public that they were a shithead. Anyway, we'll see how the trial continues, but it sure has taken a while. 2020 took you guys a minute. Speaking of executives leaving, I guess, Mind's Eye Studio execs depart, build a Rocket Boy 1 week before game's debut. So I did say we were going to talk about Mind's Eye again. So the chief legal officer and the chief financial officer have both left the studio 1 week before the game's release. That's not a great sign. Many people in the Discord have expressed concerns, etc. Could be a sign, troubling internal affairs. They might just be getting out. Who knows? This is after, just a couple of days after the CEO. Remember we were talking about it last week when he was talking about how there was a concerted effort from nefarious third parties to besmirch the good name of Mind's Eye. And no, I think your game is just boring, dude. Anyway, one thing was pointed out. It's pointed out in a different article, not this one. But the chief legal officer and the chief financial officer are an interesting duo to leave. You know, it's not the CTO, the CEO, etc. It's specifically legal and financial, which might suggest that there is a financial shitstorm on the way, and they don't want to be part of it. Now, what exactly that will be, who knows? There's another thing to point out, that Mind's Eye has an element of user-generated content to it, and that is something that could open the way for legal problems. Copyrighted material making its way onto the platform, stuff like that, or, you know, sexual abuse material making its way onto the platform. I don't know. Possible. I'm not sure if there's an upload ability, but if it's possible, people will find it. And yeah, I can imagine not wanting to be the chief legal officer when that happens. Anyway, that's speculation. We don't know why they left. They didn't give any reason for why they left, but it is a little concerning that they're jumping ship just before the game comes out, because you would imagine they'd want to hang around for the payday. Anyway, speaking of hanging around for the payday, I don't know. Activision these segues are shit. Activision claims Call of Duty loadout ads for microtransactions were a test. Oops. It published accidentally following intense community outrage. So that headline's a bit strange. They didn't publish it after community outrage. They published it, then there was community outrage, then they said whoopsie and pulled it back. Anyway, apparently they were added by mistake. Yeah, sure. Cool story, bro. A UI feature test that surfaced select store content in the loadout menus, capital L, was published in the Season 4 update in error. This feature has now been removed from the live game. Yeah, we totally did it by mistake, you guys. We didn't think you would totally buy our shit because we put a full fucking screen ad every time you changed your weapons. Users expressed their disbelief in the statement, unconvinced that a feature like loadout ads were accidentally implemented. They're fucking stupid. Rather, they were pulled down following negative feedback. This is some Soviet-era level gaslighting, one user wrote. So what exactly was the thing? So basically, with the 4th season of whatever this fucking game is, Warzone, every time you swapped out a weapon, you'd get a big billboard-style poster shilling something from the store, usually a premium skin or something like that. Every time. Every single time you change your weapon, this ad would pop up. Would have to be dismissed as well. Anyway, at the time, so this is before it was pulled down and Activision had their lol oops moment. Anyway, we are actively witnessing Call of Duty become the Krusty Krab. I mean, these are pretty good. These are pretty good quotes, honestly. Anyway, yeah, this reminds me of the time, was it the NFL one, or maybe it was FIFA or something? But they were putting like straight up. No, it was the basketball game, 2K, NBA, whatever it is. They were putting like full screen ads in the middle of the game. Ads that had nothing to do with the game, just like ads for like fucking Gatorade or whatever. And yeah, there was a pretty big shitstorm when they tried that shit. That wasn't an accident, even though they claimed it was. Like, how do you accidentally create this in the first place? Even if we take it face value, it was an accident. They didn't mean to include it. You still created it. Like, the assets exist. The triggering mechanism exists. The assets are in there. Clearly you intended it to come out at some point. Right, anyway, moving on. Yeah, some more Switch 2 shenanigans. Staten Island GameStop stapled receipts to the Switch 2 and punctured the screens because Nintendo boxed them in the weirdest way possible. Now there are... Okay, so they're throwing it at this being Nintendo's mistake, and in some ways, yeah, it is, but also, the fuck are you doing stapling receipts to boxes? Like, what the fuck? All right, anyway, someone stapled the receipt for the Switch 2 to the box, and now you have holes in the screen. So there's some imagery of what happened here. So they're stapling the receipt, and the staple goes through the box, and the staple also goes through the plastic film over the screen, and then now there's like puncture holes in the screen itself. Good shit. So the receipt's stapled to the front of the box, the puncture holes it left in both the cardboard and the plastic wrap, and the ensuing dents in the Switch 2 screen. Some of them are a lot worse than that. Some of them have like actual divots inside the screen as well. It is unclear if the stapling was done by everyone or just one employee. I would imagine it was everyone anyway. Other users who were at the event shared similar horror stories, so it's likely this was policy, that store anyway. Genuinely insane. Now I'm going to have to wait 3 months for the restock. And yes, we were there for the midnight release, so I bet everyone in this line is going to have the same issue. There's another one of the screen having the imprint of the stapler. It was a midnight launch. It was a fairly long queue. They're definitely not the only people. So, while stapling anything to a video game console box is unnecessary and low-key unhinged, like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing? Just use sellotape, you weirdo. And also, why are you even bothering? Just put the receipt in the bag. Here you go. Just put the fries in the bag, bro. Anyway, it should be noted that it is equally wild that the company known for its meticulous attention to detail would box the Switch 2 with the screen facing up and only covered by 1.5 millimeters of light cardboard. To be fair, that is also a bit nuts. So the Switch 2 box, you open it up and it's just the screen's right there. Like there's really nothing between the rest of the world and the Switch 2 screen. So that is a bit crazy, but is also stapling a fucking receipt to the box. Anyway, some Switch 2 consoles ordered directly from Nintendo came with a packaged second, much sturdier outer box, so there was like a sleeve thing that they go through that was much thicker and so on. So it does seem like Nintendo are somewhat aware of the issue, but I guess GameStop stores removed them or something, or they just didn't ship them with all of the boxes or what have you. Later updates did mention like, why the fuck were you stapling things? The receipts weren't staying taped because of, I don't know, the temperature in the store or something. It just wasn't staying sticky. And they didn't want to mix up paperwork, so they stapled it instead. Just put it in the bag. I don't understand. Or hand it to the person. It's a bit weird. Anyway. That's dumb. Anyway, last thing we're going to look at. This is more of a follow-up to last week's story. We were talking about People Can Fly. They were blaming a publisher for not getting back to them with the content writer. Forget the exact wording of it. But created significant uncertainty. They had to cancel 2 projects and so on. We didn't know who the publisher was at the time. We do know now that it was Square Enix. And this does play into Square Enix pulling back on projects, bringing things into in-house and so on, even though they have that Killer In game. I just realized that's a fucking pun as well. Anyway, fuck's sake. Anyway, they laid some of the blame at the door of a Japanese publisher. They laid some of the blame at the door of a publisher at the time. We now know that it was Square Enix they were talking about because there was an earnings report later on that People Can Fly, rather. People Make Games is a different thing. People Can Fly put out their earnings report, and Square Enix are specifically called out in that. In a current report filed on June 1st, People Can Fly confirmed the publisher in question is Square Enix and accused the company of causing significant uncertainty through inaction. So that's your follow-up. There was speculation that it was Square Enix, Krafton, or Sony. Had to be one of those 3, because that's who they've worked with in the past. Could have, of course, been a 4th person that they were just starting to work with, but those seemed the likely candidates, and yeah, it was Square Enix. Anyway, last thing we're going to look at is, even though I somewhat forgot that the Switch 2 launched this week, people who did, kind of got a little bit funny with it. So the cows are taking over Mario Kart World, and this article is full of cow puns. Some of them are very good. Anyway, there's clearly one standout star with all of the characters across the roster, and no, it's not it's not Mario, it's not Peach, it's not Luigi, etc. It's cow. So yeah, there's like lobbies where like 24 cows are in the lobby. You know, you can see them driving, and I think he looks back at one point, and it's just all it's just all cow. And there's quite a few social media posts like this, where it's like multiple, if not the entire lobby, it's practically it's almost every player is playing cow. 3 full races that are just all cow. You know, this kind of stuff it's pretty funny. And I think he's also the only new. I say he, like it's probably she. Pretty sure they are the only new character. Yeah, I can do puns as well. Anyway, I think there's some cows in the background there as well. Yeah, I don't want to skip ahead. Anyway, yeah, so people love the cow. They love the cow character, right? Yeah, well, I guess we'll leave Mario to loop. Anyway, that was your weekly news recap for the 2nd to the 8th of June, 2025. I'm going to do an attempt to recap the recap. We had Sony State of Play, which I thought overall was pretty solid. It's one of their better ones the last while. Romeo's a Dead Man was my kind of standout game. I'm really actually dying to play that game now. Then we had the Xbox Showcase. I wouldn't necessarily say that there was a big standout game. I do really want to play The Outer Worlds again now, after seeing like their deep dive thing. There were definitely a few games that I'm really interested in, and it's kind of annoying that almost all of them are Xbox exclusives, which is a bit weird. I think the handheld will be really interesting, and I think when we learn a little bit more about how it works and its specs and so on, they are really trying to hype up that any game you can play on Xbox right now, you could play it on their new handheld. And them just like dropping that like Silk Song. It'll come out with Silk Song or something like that. I forget the exact wording they used, but they very much made it seem like Silk Song will be a day one game with it. So whether it's the same release date or what have you, they didn't give a release date, which is possibly why, because Silk Song getting a release date will be a big PR thing, so they probably didn't want to cannibalize that. But yeah, I guess we'll see a little bit more from that. Summer Games Fest overall was shit. To be perfectly honest, I was very disappointed with it. Can I say I'm disappointed with it when I was expecting it to be bad? Probably not. Resident Evil 9, yeah, cool. I'll play it. I honestly don't need to know any more about it. The fake out was fun. You know, they had multiple times Resident Evil stuff came up, and it was one of them was like there's an promoting a sale, I think, that was going on Steam at the time. They even got the voice actress who plays Lady Dimitrescu to do it, and then they had a later on thing where they're like it's the anniversary or something, and they had Jun Takeuchi talking about how Resident Evil 9 is on the way. You know, it's only thinking about it now, he said it's only a blink away, which I think a lot of people took to mean like we'll hear about it at Gamescom maybe, or Tokyo Game Show possibly, or something like that. But no, it was literally like 20 minutes I think later. That was fun. The rest of the show was a bit whatever. Blighted from Drinkbox Games I think will be pretty cool, but I need to see a little bit more of it. Outside of that, the Unreal Engine showcase thing with The Witcher. Again, it's a tech demo. Try not to get super hype about it. It did look very good, but it is a tech demo. It won't look that good when the game comes out. It won't. It just won't. They will have to make concessions for get it to run at 60 frames per second and so on, so don't expect it to look that really good. the Dungeons and Dragons game with Giant Skull, we don't know enough about it, but like I would love another Baldur's Gate, effectively. But that game's like a once generation thing. You're not going to get another one of those really anytime soon. And a single player thing set in the universe. There hasn't been one of those for Dungeons and Dragons in a really long time. I'm trying to think. There was a PS2 game, and it wasn't single player. It was like it was single player, but you were playing like 3 characters. You swap between them. I don't remember what the fuck it's called, and I don't think there was one since then. There was like a 4-player arena style thing recently. I think that's the most recent one. I don't remember what it's called. They shut down the servers for it anyway. The game's not running anymore. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, new releases wise, obviously it's the Switch 2. A lot of the Switch 2's launch lineup is ports. Very impressive ports, but ports. The Cyberpunk port is very good. The Batman Arkham City port is very good. The Switch version of that game is horrendous, so that's a pretty good glow up for that. I've seen some gameplay of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom running on the Switch 2, and yeah, it's almost like it was made for these. It was made for the Switch 2, rather, because it just runs so smooth. It's pretty great, so I'm kind of... Like, if anything would get me to buy a Switch 2, it would be that. And we have done a Breath of the Wild playthrough on the channel, and I do want to do a Tears of the Kingdom playthrough, so if I can get a fucking cheap Switch 2, we might see about making that happen. Because if I'm going to do it, I think I will do it on the Switch 2 instead, just to have that better feeling. Industry bullshit-wise, getting Tango Gameworks, getting their office back, like, it is largely symbolic, because they have been working otherwise. Remote, but it's a good symbol, like they are back kind of way. Krafton are a bit of a risky publisher to be with because they have, thrown other developers under the bus for underperformance, like Strike Distance for Callisto Protocol and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully things work out well for them. The Ubisoft trial with the executives is a long time coming, and some pretty horrible shit they're talking about there, but if they can get some kind of comeuppance for executives, not even just video game executives in general, that'd be nice. A little bit of justice, as a treat, maybe? A little bit of that Final Fantasy Tactics political messaging we're talking about. Anyway, can't think of any of the other big news. The guys dropping out of Mind's Eye is a bit concerning, but we won't know until the game itself is out. Was it a good move for them to jump ship? Probably. Probably, because it doesn't seem like that game's gonna do particularly great. Word of mouth of it is not good. Anyway, I can't remember anything else, and it is now officially tomorrow. So I'm gonna wrap up here. As I was saying about the other Summer Game Fest showcases, there are way more. I only did the main 3 today. I'm going to take some time to watch the rest of them. I have watched a few of them. I haven't watched all of them. There will be a couple of repeat games, spread across a couple of different showcases. So I'm going to try to aggregate them together, and we'll discuss a few of them next week instead. Because I imagine next week, news-wise, will be a bit quiet. I may be wrong, but I'm imagining it'll be a bit quiet after everybody blows their load at Summer Game Fest. There's also Steam Next Fest starts technically today. I do want to do something for that because I have done it for the other Steam Next Fests. So I will look into a couple of demos and we'll see if I can get some of those up on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for that. All right, I'm gonna head off. Have a good rest of your day. And talk to you guys next time. Bye.